As we consider the findings from recent impact evaluations and their implications for policy and practice in international development, it is sometimes useful to take a step back and reflect on the state of the field. The rapidly growing volume, granularity, and availability of recorded data around the world, combined with the urgency of responding efficiently and effectively to mitigate and abate the global COVID-19 pandemic, makes this a particularly opportune time to reflect on the use of big data in measuring development impact. This presentation provides an overview of one stock-taking effort recently conducted by 3IE to get a sense of the scope, scale, and applications of big data in measurement studies, impact evaluations, and systematic reviews. What we're seeing right now is the collision of two fields of study: data science, which has grown dramatically in recent years, and impact evaluation. This is generating numerous opportunities for strengthening impact evaluation, but it's also creating challenges to address. One natural question is, what's going on right now? How are people using big data for measuring and evaluating development outcomes? How does this vary by geography or outcome? What are the main technical, methodological, and ethical issues emerging? And more broadly, what lessons can be derived for impact evaluation going forward? To answer these questions, we started by systematically searching the literature for measurement studies, impact evaluations, and systematic reviews using big data to study any type of outcome within the Sustainable Development Goals framework. The search yielded over 17,000 records, which we then screened down to 437 studies, which became the foundation for our systematic map. The systematic map visually summarizes the evidence base, categorizing studies by the big data sources used, listed in the row headings at the left side of the map, by the development outcome studied, shown in the column headings at the top of the map, and by study type, indicated by the legend at the bottom. We also include a confidence rating for the systematic reviews based on a critical appraisal of those papers. In each cell, you can see the size and type of the evidence base linking a particular type of data source to a specific development outcome. If you access the map on the 3IE website, you can also hover over each of these bubbles to see the underlying studies and click on the links to access them. So what did we find? We found that overall, there is a sizable and rapidly growing number of measurement studies using big data, shown in the middle row on the left, but a much smaller number of impact evaluations. This gives us a sense that there is a lot of work being done to develop appropriate measures using big data, which could subsequently be used in impact evaluations. We also see that the bulk of the big data sources are machine-generated, mostly satellites, represented in the light blue, as compared to process-mediated sources in red, including administrative data, call detail records, e-transactions, basically events that are systematically logged as they happen, and also human-sourced data in dark blue at the top, including social media, crowdsourcing, and citizen reporting. The top categories of outcomes studied are environmental sustainability, economic development and livelihoods, urban development, and health and well-being. In terms of geographic distribution, China, India, and the United States are the most studied countries. East Africa, and Kenya specifically, are the most studied within sub-Saharan Africa, while Brazil and Mexico are the most studied in Latin America. Most other countries had few or no studies. Some challenges we observed relate to data quality, transparency, and ethical issues, including consent, data privacy, data security, and unintended exclusion. Though these issues have been widely noted in the literature, they were discussed only minimally or not at all in many of these studies. There's also a general expectation that impact evaluations using big data will be less expensive than those using conventional data collection methods, but there's very little reported information on costs to do a meaningful comparison. So, what does this all mean? Going forward, we expect to see increased use of big data to measure and evaluate development outcomes. We can reasonably anticipate that clusters of measurement studies in a particular area will be followed by an uptick in impact evaluations as those measures are validated, as those particular data sources become more widely available, and as the methods for accessing and processing the data are more widely understood. It is already widely recognized that big data creates opportunities for faster, cheaper, and in some cases more robust impact evaluations, and that it can also help us investigate topics, locations, and situations that are otherwise more difficult to study, including fragile contexts, difficult to reach areas, humanitarian crises, and global pandemics. The findings of this work help add granularity and nuance to that understanding, but more work is needed, especially in unpacking the many ethical considerations in using big data to measure and evaluate development outcomes. It's also important to keep in mind that big data is a complement and not a replacement for traditional forms of data collection. There is still a critical role for locally gathered data to train machine learning algorithms, for ground truthing to validate variables generated using big data, and for mixed methods fieldwork to help tell the story of what's happening on the ground. The increasing ease of asking and answering questions about development impact from afar makes it more important than ever to prioritize meaningful stakeholder engagement, including of policymakers, implementers, and beneficiaries. It also underscores the need to make sure the advancing technologies of big data capture and processing do not disadvantage local researchers evaluating their own communities. We encourage you to review the Big Data Systematic Map and the accompanying report on the 3IE website. If you have suggestions, comments, or questions for us, or if you would like to share additional studies using big data to measure development outcomes, please email us at 3ieimpact.org. And thank you.